Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the witnesses for their testimony. On previous hearings, and echoing some of the comments of my colleagues, particularly Senator Kennedy, where a lot of the information should be viewed as being owned by the person, not by these data brokers. And we have to create real opportunities to protect your data. We've got some legal statutes in place by the Fair Credit Reporting Act, HIPAA, et cetera, where it's clear by statute. And then we've got some information that's very public. You know, it's published and it's notices in newspapers, et cetera. And then there's all the information that's just accumulated by being on a computer. It comes back down, I think, to three principles, is my view. One is that people should have the ability to opt out of any information collection system. Then second, that this information should be at some point expunged, 6 months, a year, et cetera. And then if it's violated by anybody, a data broker or a collector or anyone else, then they should have the right to go to court and say, you wronged me. So let's start with sort of both your comments on how do we get sort of an effective opt-out. How, you know, my sense is that it's going to a website, it's hard to figure out where the opt-out is. Sometimes they don't even offer that. Should we, in the U.S. Congress, say we have to have a very prominent opt-out, don't collect my data? So let's start with Dr. Cackley and then Mr. Dixon.
So an opt-out possibility is certainly something that is available and is used in certain circumstances. I think there are more circumstances where it could be helpful. I don't know that it would be the that as a solution alone would do the trick in terms of if you think about all of the times when you go online and you're supposed to read the disclosures and click on things.
No one reads disclosures.
Yeah, exactly. And so it may be that no one will read the opt-out.
That's why the opt-out can't be hidden in disclosures. It has to be pop right up here saying,
Absolutely.
click yes or no.
Right. Yeah. I think if someone knows that they don't want their data to be collected and they can opt out right away, that's a way to do it. In other circumstances, people may not understand what it is the opt-out is really doing.
I think if you start with the major platforms, the Googles and et cetera, if they cannot collect the data,
Right.
then that data is not going to get down the road to
Sure.
the brokers because they don't have it.
Absolutely.
And that's the first place, I think, to begin. Ms. Dixon.
Thank you. I was honored to serve at the OECD as part of their AI expert group. I just finished helping them write the global guidelines on AI. And something that I learned in that process, even more so than I already had, is that our data world, our data ecosystems have become so profoundly complex that I am not at all persuaded anymore that opt-out is possible. Because if you recall the Russian nesting dolls where you have the big doll and then you open the doll and there's another doll and then you open it up again, there's another doll. This is what data is like. So let's say we do opt out of a platform. Well, what about all of the financial transactions? The financial transactions and our retail history purchase histories are actually the basis of a lot of data broker analysis. And then it gets worse. As you get into the dolls, here's one that really is very, very challenging, and that's this. Data brokers right now, if they didn't collect another piece of data on us, here's something really to think about. They could simply create data about us because that is the state of the technology. And I do not know how to create an opt-out that is that far removed from us. However, that being the case, I do believe there are things we can do, especially if we focus on restricting negative uses that harm consumers and really look at the endpoints of that process and also at the beginning and say, hey, what are the standards you are using? What can we do to make good standards? And at the end, what are the standards for use? How can we control these 2 points? But I think there's a role for opt-out, for example, especially in, for example, human subject research must have meaningful consent. As a tool, I think it's lost a lot of its power.
You have studied this longer than I, but I think it's a place to begin, and it's not a perfect solution, but you know, you can't make the perfect the enemy of the good. If it gives us people a little more protection, I think it should be pursued. And the other aspects of this too is you've pointed out with this synthetic data, they create the synthetic data, sort of purging it periodically might also help for this. Again, I think you've put your finger on this dilemma now, that the complexity, the ability to gather indirectly, not directly, data is profound. But if we don't take some simple steps, it gets worse, it doesn't get better. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Schatz.